Mickey 17 is out in theaters now, so let's dive into the review. Hey everyone, John Lunsford here, and the follow-up movie to Bong Joon-ho's Oscar-winning film Parasite is out with Mickey 17. This film was supposed to come out a year ago, but was removed from the schedule due to the SAG-AFTRA strike, and then pushed back to January of this year, then moved to April of this year, then back to March. It's had a rough life over the last year or so, but finally, we have it out in theaters. So Mickey 17 tells the story of Mickey Barnes, played by Robert Pattinson, a man who is on the run from a loan shark with his best friend Timo, played by Yeun. They decide to sign up for a mission to leave Earth and colonize a snow planet called Niflheim so they can get away from their debts. Timo gets a job as a pilot in the expedition, but Mickey doesn't have many options to guarantee himself a spot, so he signs up as an expendable, which means he basically is used as a disposable person they can use for jobs that may otherwise kill people, and then they can just reprint another version. The story starts with Mickey falling into a fissure in the ice, and when confronted by a bunch of creepers, which is what they give the name of the creatures on Niflheim, which you do see in the trailer, Timo leaves him for dead and starts the process to print a new Mickey. However, Mickey escapes and comes back to find Mickey 18 laying in his bed. You've seen all of that in the trailer, so I won't go much further than that to get into spoiler territory. The supporting cast in this movie is pretty good. Naomi Ackie plays Nasha, Mickey's love interest, who is very supportive of Mickey and then loves the fact that there are two of them to, be with. Mark Ruffalo plays Kenneth Marshall, an egomaniac with a cult following who's in charge of this entire expedition and wants to take over this new world and build a colony, kind of similar to something you saw back in the 1940s, if you know what I mean. And his wife, Ilfa, is played by Toni Collette, who is equally as crazy as he is. The story is actually based off the book Mickey 7, so I guess the Mickey in that source material didn't have quite as rough of a life, but the film adaptation was actually in the works before the book was even published back in 2022. I have not read the book, so I'm not sure how much this deviated from the source material, but the movie, it tries to go down multiple different paths. It could be seen as a story about workers' rights with how they mistreat Mickey, and they're trying to be very strict about how much tasteless food is consumed in space by everyone as the boss sits in his big nice suite and eats fancy food. It could be a straight-up comedy in the same vein as a movie like Multiplicity, which is about cloning and the issues and hilarity that comes with it. It could be a movie about just colonizing a new world, similar to Avatar, and be more of a straight-up science fiction movie. It has a bunch of different stories all mashed up into one, but because of that, it doesn't necessarily do any of them great. It's a lot of good pieces mashed together, but I think this movie would have been a lot better had it picked a lane and stayed in that. The movie tries to tell a serious sci-fi story while also being as quirky as possible. This isn't the first time Bong Joon-ho has done this, but this one's a little over the top and it gets a little old. Okja was actually my first introduction to Bong Joon-ho, and there are a lot of similarities in this film to that, but I feel like Okja kind of kept the comedy and the aw moments around the creatures to an acceptable rate versus what the actual story was. This one seemed just a little too much for me. When a joke works the first time, you don't have to tell it 15 more times in the movie. There's one particular joke that they kept going on with Toni Collette's character that I hated. I do wonder how comical the book tries to be versus how much of that was Bong Joon-ho putting his stamp on the story. One of the big talking points of this movie, though, is the budget. It would have to become Bong Joon-ho's highest grossing movie of all time just to come close to breaking even, and I don't see that happening. However, I do think the money was fairly well spent. The creeper CGI was pretty good, at least until the end when you see a little more of them and things aren't quite as well done, almost like they were hurried to get the final product out. But the baby creepers were cute enough, made my wife go, "Aw," a couple of times, and space scenes were well done, and you obviously have to have some good death scenes since that's the whole point of the Expendables program. But Robert Pattinson did a really good job in this. Every time a new print would come out, you'd have to have a slight evolution of the character. And his acting really showed that. He said he based his character, at least for Mickey 17, off Jim Carrey from Dumb and Dumber, and I can see it. You had to do just a little bit to differentiate the different Mickeys, and I thought he did that well. When there were two Mickeys, he said he channeled his inner Ren and Stimpy, where Billy West does both voices, but changes the accent just a little bit to differentiate the two voices instead of it sounding like the same person. Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette were supposed to be kind of over-the-top caricatures, and I think they did a good job portraying that, although it got annoying pretty quickly, which I know was probably the point, but it still turned me off a little bit. The moral of this review is, if you're expecting the next Parasite, this isn't it. It's not even close in story, in tone, or quality. My final verdict on this one is, it's all right. It's not a bad movie by any means. It has its high points and its low points, and I think it's worth going to see in the theater because of some big action scenes and set pieces. And while Robert Pattinson was incredible in this, ultimately it's going to be a forgettable movie compared to some of both Robert Pattinson and Bong Joon-ho's past work. I will say, I'm still going to be excited for Bong Joon-ho's next project, whenever that is officially announced. He's supposedly working on a Korean horror film and an English drama film based on true events, plus a Korean animated film. So there's still a lot to be excited for with Bong Joon-ho's future projects based on all that he's done in the past. So what did you think of Mickey 17? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know in the comments. Also, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the Pop Culture Life for more movie reviews, TV reviews like our White Lotus review, pop culture picks, some awards buzz, entertainment news, and so much more.